The record ends with a man no longer present at his post, no transfer, no follow-up report. What remains is a field journal, leather-bound, initialed J. Farrell. It was recovered years later from storage tied to Roosevelt National Forest. The final entry is dated September 22, 1910, routine handwriting. No indication of distress. The termination notice in his file is dated nearly 2 months after that entry. There are no records accounting for the days in between. The journal was closed. The station log continued without him. No search was recorded, no explanation filed. The paperwork stops here. The Roosevelt National Forest sprawls across the northern edge of Colorado's Front Range. Over 250,000 acres of lodgepole pine and granite ridges. Most of it sits above 8,000 feet. By 1908, it was one of the first federally protected wilderness reserves in the western states. But protection didn't mean accessibility. Large sections remained unsurveyed. Trails were worn in by trappers and mineral prospectors, not cartographers. The forest's eastern boundary runs along the Continental Divide. Weather systems collide there without warning. Summer mornings can turn to sleet by noon. Winter snows regularly close access roads until late May. In the early decades, ranger stations were small, isolated outposts. Some were nothing more than log cabins with a wood stove and a radio that worked half the time. The men stationed there spent weeks alone. Their job was to watch for fires, poachers, and lost hikers. They kept logs, they filed reports, most of it routine. In 1982, during a renovation of the old Poudre River Station, a metal filing cabinet was discovered in a crawl space beneath the floorboards. Inside were decades of handwritten documents, field notes, weather records, incident reports dating back to 1903. Among them was a hand-drawn map on heavy linen paper, no signature, no date. Just a route marked in faded ink, labeled in small, precise script. The map showed a trail beginning near a drainage creek west of Chambers Lake. It followed a series of ridgelines that don't appear on any modern topographic survey. The trail was marked as extending 11 miles northwest, ending at a location labeled only as Stone Relay. No such place exists in any Forest Service archive. The map was cataloged and stored. For years, it sat in a regional office in Fort Collins, filed under historical documents of unknown provenance. It drew little attention. In 1997, a seasonal ranger named Thomas Millard came across it while digitizing old records. He was a surveyor by training. He noticed immediately that the elevations didn't match. The terrain features were wrong. The distances were inconsistent with known geography. He made a photocopy and took it into the field. Millard hiked the area 3 times over the course of that summer. He used GPS, compass bearings, and archival land surveys. He found the drainage creek. He identified ridgelines that could correspond to portions of the map. But the trail itself, it wasn't there. No worn path, no cairns, no evidence that anything had ever been cut through that stretch of forest. He reported his findings in a brief memo to the district office. The memo noted the map as a probable surveying error or a draft that was never finalized. It recommended no further action. The map was returned to storage. In 2003, a historian researching early ranger stations requested access to the Poudre River Archive. Her name was Dr. Elena Voss. She was writing a book on federal land management in Colorado between 1900 and 1920. She found references to the map in a maintenance log from 1911. The entry was brief. It mentioned that a ranger had been dispatched to verify a trail route for winter supply access. The ranger's name was listed as J. Farrell. Voss searched for additional records under that name. She found a personnel file. Joseph Farrell, age 29, hired in April 1910, stationed at Poudre River from May through October of that year. His file included a single commendation for diligent fieldwork and reliable reporting. It also included a termination notice dated November 14, 1910. Reason given, abandoned post without notice. No further explanation. Voss continued searching. In a separate archive in Denver, she located a box of unsorted correspondence from the early ranger program. Inside was a leather-bound field journal. The name embossed on the cover was worn, but still legible. J. Farrell. The journal contained daily entries spanning from late May to early October 1910. Most of it was standard: weather observations, animal sightings, notes on trail conditions and water sources. But 3 entries stood out. September 9th, 1910. Clear morning, temperature near 40 degrees at dawn. Departed station at first light to survey the northwestern drainage route per instructions from district. Followed the creek west for approximately 2 miles. Terrain becomes steep beyond the second fork, heavy deadfall in places. Passable on foot, but would require clearing for pack animals. Located what appears to be an old trail bed running north along the upper ridge. Overgrown, but distinct. Width suggests it was used regularly at some point. No recent tracks. Marked the position. We'll continue tomorrow to determine where it leads. Return to station by late afternoon. No issues. September 12th, 1910. Followed the ridge trail for 6 miles today. Weather held, visibility good. The trail is older than I thought, in some sections. The ground is worn smooth, almost polished, but there are no blazes, no cairns, nothing to indicate it was ever maintained by the Forest Service or any surveying team. At the 4th mile, I found a post. Just a single wooden post, weathered gray, standing about 4 feet high. No markings, no sign attached. It was planted firmly in the ground, centered in the middle of the trail. I walked past it and continued another 2 miles. The trail runs straight, doesn't follow the natural contour of the land, just cuts through. I stopped at a clearing near a rock outcrop. From there, I could see the valley below. The trail continues northwest. I could see it stretching out across the next ridge, faint but visible. I didn't go further. Something about the way the light hit the trees made it hard to judge distance. I kept thinking I was closer to the next ridge than I was, or further. I'm not sure. I turned back. When I passed the post again, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. There were scratches in the wood, shallow, deliberate. They formed a pattern, but I couldn't make sense of it. I took a rubbing with charcoal and paper. I'll examine it tonight. The hike back felt longer than it should have. September 15th, 1910. Did not sleep well, kept thinking about the post and the markings. This morning I compared the rubbing to survey symbols and trail markers from the manual. Nothing matched. The lines are too precise to be random, too deliberate to be damage from weather or animals. I decided to return to the trail. I needed to see it again in full daylight, to confirm what I saw. Weather was overcast but dry. I made good time to the ridge, found the trail bed exactly where I left it. The post was gone, not broken, not fallen, just gone. The ground where it stood was smooth, undisturbed, as if it had never been there. I walked the area in a grid pattern, checked the surrounding woods, no sign of it, no drag marks, no hole. I continued along the trail for another mile. The path remained clear, straight, unnatural in the way it cut through the forest. At one point, I stopped to take a compass bearing. The needle swung slowly, settled, then drifted again. I tapped the casing. It steadied, but the heading felt wrong. I checked my map. According to my position, the trail should have begun curving east by now, but it didn't. It kept running northwest, exactly as the old map indicated. I heard something then. Faint. A low hum. Almost rhythmic. I thought at first it was wind through the trees, but the air was still. I stood there for several minutes listening. The sound faded, or maybe I just stopped noticing it. I turned back. I didn't mark my route this time. I just walked. When I reached the drainage creek, I checked my pocket watch. It was nearly evening. I had left the station just after dawn. I should not have been gone that long. September the 18th, 1910. I have not returned to the trail. I've been organizing my notes, reviewing maps, trying to make sense of the terrain. District sent word yesterday asking for a status update on the survey. I drafted a response this morning, but didn't send it. I'm not sure what to report. The trail exists. I'm certain of that. But I can't explain where it goes or why it's not marked on any record I've seen. I found something today while going through old station logs. A brief entry from 1907. A previous ranger mentioned hiking northwest from the drainage to investigate smoke. He noted that the terrain seemed longer than expected, and that he turned back after several hours. No mention of a trail. No further entries on the subject. I checked the log for his name. It was listed at the front of the ledger, Samuel Kern, stationed here from June to September 1907. I don't know what happened to him after that. There's no termination notice, no transfer record. The log just stops. Tonight I went outside to check the weather. The sky was clear, stars were bright, but I felt like I was being watched. Not by an animal, not by a person, just watched. I came back inside and locked the door. I know that sounds foolish. There are no locks on ranger cabins, just a latch. But latched it anyway. September 22nd, 1910. I went back, I don't know why, I told myself I wouldn't. I had decided to file my report and let district handle it. But this morning I woke up and the decision was already made. I reached the trail by mid-morning. It was still there, unchanged. I walked for 3 hours, maybe more. The trail never curved, never narrowed, just continued in a straight line through terrain that shouldn't support it. At some point, I realized I couldn't hear anything. No birds, no wind, no insects. Just my boots on the dirt and my own breathing. I stopped at a rise and looked back. I could see the ridgeline I'd come from. It was further away than it should have been. Much further. I tried to calculate the distance I'd walked, the time I'd spent moving. The numbers didn't match. I kept going. An hour later, maybe 2. I saw something ahead. A structure, low and dark against the trees. Stone. It was made of stone. I approached slowly. It was a small cairn. No, not a cairn. Too deliberate, too carefully stacked. The stones were flat and layered, almost like a platform, about waist high. There was nothing on top of it. No marker, no plaque. Just smooth, dark stones fitted together without mortar. I touched the surface. It was cold. Colder than it should have been. I don't know how long I stood there, but when I looked up, the light had changed. The sun was lower. Hours had passed. I turned and walked back the way I'd come. This time, the return took less than an hour. The journal ended there, no further entries. Dr. Voss noted in her research that Joseph Farrell's termination was dated November 14th, 1910, nearly 2 months after the final journal entry. There was no record of what he did during that time, no reports, no correspondence, nothing. Voss attempted to locate family records or personal documents. She found an address listed in his personnel file, a boarding house in Loveland, Colorado. The building, no longer existed. She checked census records and military enlistment files. No Joseph Farrell matching his age and description appeared after 1910. He simply stopped appearing in records. The rational explanations are straightforward. Compass errors are common in areas with high mineral content. The Front Range has significant magnetic rock formations that can interfere with navigation equipment. This is documented in multiple geological surveys. Disorientation is a known effect of prolonged isolation. Farrell had been stationed alone for months. Cognitive distortions are common under those conditions. Time perception becomes unreliable. Distances feel inconsistent. The post could have been removed by another hiker, or it could have been unstable and fallen between visits. Farrell's assumption that the ground was undisturbed may have been incorrect. The humming sound he described matches infrasound phenomena. Certain wind patterns and geological formations produce low-frequency vibrations that humans perceive as unsettling or eerie. These sounds are below the threshold of conscious hearing, but can cause unease and disorientation. The stone structure he found was likely an old surveying marker or a remnant from early mining activity. The Front Range was heavily prospected in the late 1800s. Many sites were abandoned and forgotten. Cairns and stone platforms were used as reference points. As for the trail itself, it's possible Farrell was following an abandoned logging route or a game trail that had been widened by seasonal runoff. These paths can appear deliberately maintained when they are simply the result of repeated use by animals or erosion patterns. His termination for abandoning his post suggests he may have left the station voluntarily. Perhaps he experienced a psychological break. Perhaps he simply decided the job was not for him and walked away. People disappear from records for many reasons. Name changes, migration, clerical errors. The early 1900s were not known for meticulous record keeping, especially in rural areas. All of this is plausible. All of it fits. But there is one detail that remains difficult to account for. In 2011, a forestry survey team was conducting a GPS mapping project in the northwestern section of Roosevelt National Forest. They were documenting unmarked trails and old access roads for updated park maps. One of the surveyors, a man named Richard Cole, reported finding a stone structure approximately 11 miles northwest of Chambers Lake. He described it as a low platform made of stacked stones, precise, deliberate, no mortar. He took photographs, filed a location report, marked it as a possible historical site. When the team returned 3 weeks later to document it further, they couldn't locate it. The GPS coordinates led them to an area with no stone structure, no disturbance in the ground, no evidence that anything had been there. Cole insisted he had been at the correct location. He showed them the photographs, clear images of the stone platform in daylight. The surrounding trees were visible in the background. A comparison of the tree placement in the photos with the current site confirmed he had been in the right place. But the structure was gone. The survey team filed an incident report. It was marked as a possible equipment malfunction or human error. The site was removed from the updated maps. Cole left the Forestry Service 2 years later. He now works in civil engineering in Denver. When contacted by a researcher in 2019, he stated he had no interest in discussing the incident further. The map remains in the Fort Collins archive. It has not been displayed publicly. It is not digitized. Researchers can request to view it, but few do. Thomas Millard, the ranger who first investigated it in 1997, retired in 2015. He still lives near Fort Collins. In a brief interview, he said he no longer hikes in that section of the forest. He did not elaborate. Dr. Elena Voss published her book on early federal land management in 2006. She included a chapter on ranger station operations and record-keeping practices. She did not mention Joseph Farrell or the map. When asked why, she said the material didn't fit the scope of the book. She has not returned to the subject. The trail, if it exists, has not been documented in any official capacity. No signs mark its location, no warnings are posted. People still hike the area. Some follow established routes. Others explore off-trail. Most return without incident. The map that led nowhere remains in storage, ink on linen, a route to a place that may or may not exist, a trail that appears and disappears depending on who is looking. And somewhere in the archives, a journal sits in a box. The last entry dated September 22, 1910. Joseph Farrell walked into the forest. He followed a trail. He found something made of stone, and then the record ends.